My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and I just made her laugh before we started.
I know. It's the atheist when he said, God bless us everyone before every bloody podcast.
I know, again, as an atheist, what I do. And we needed a bit of a laugh because it was a sad week this week. We have to lose somebody. We're in Kill Your Darlings mode, and this week, well,
killed one of the biggest darlings for you.
I lost Robert, but thankfully we found him. Hey, Robert.
Hello, how you going?
Good. It seems like only a week since we've spoken.
It really does seem like that.
I must say, you're very good at keeping up your contractual obligations, not revealing that you were going home the next week at the end of
yes.
At the end of the podcast. So, well, I'll be seeing you next week, and then probably not for a while.
Yeah. So it was free from week, and it ended up being free from Robert week. But anyway, you get that.
Let's just say you're not good for the gluten, dairy, or otherwise intolerant.
Yeah. Well, it's great if you're Robert intolerant, but anyway. So.
Nobody out there is Robert intolerant. That's the thing. So what I found, look, what I would say personally is if I'm going home on a week, I'd like it to be a week where they take away things like dairy and sugar and gluten. Because if they take all those things away from me, well, what am I living for? Really? I mean,
yeah.
What am I living for?
We need to put you on suicide watch as you get older and start having allergies.
Yeah, if I start developing those sorts of allergies, look out. It's not going to be pretty. But it was a good week for you in many ways. I mean, even though it was the week, obviously, you went home, your bakes themselves were really good.
Yeah, if I'm quite blunt about it, I'd much rather go home on a week where everyone does pretty awesome and like it's quite clear, yep, Robert messed up a little bit on one of these, but everybody's bakes were consistent across the whole thing. So clearly it's time for Robert to nick off. So it's fine. Yeah. But even my stuff up, at least I can go, yeah, I know that those flavors work. It was just underbaked, and you get that.
Yeah.
You know, you should have made your bake a bit more ginger than blonde.
Oh,
boom. Nice.
On fire already.
Like a ginger. Because I'm good at the moment. It's hilarious.
As Tim Minchin says, only a ginger can call another ginger.
Hey, look, I've got red streaks in my hair.
Doesn't count.
Look, they might.
It's temporary intelligence. We're moving. So.
Bit artificial, is it?
Bit artificial.
Bit AI. Watch out.
It's a bit AI?
Yeah.
Bit inside that one.
Wait till I start breaking the cheering.
So we'll start backwards. So your trifle. That went really well, actually. And the judges' review of it afterwards, when they were talking about it to the camera, was any other week. And that's a great bake and one of the top bakes we've got. So
yep.
I thought for me, that would have been the crumb of comfort, sort of, as you said. You know, you'd rather go home in a week where everyone does brilliantly. There's no massive stuff up. There's a slight issue with one bake, but you go, well, that last bake there was really good. That said, that trifle, even though it was refined sugar-free, and I've had my say on that.
Look, I had so many problems with that just as a concept. I could not get my head around it. And that's why they set challenges like that, because it makes you go, huh? Really? What? And it's just how well you can bounce off that crazy idea, or how well you can work with the theme that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever and make something incredible out of it. And everybody did that day. It was great.
So what kind of, when you were like planning the trifle and you think, okay, can't use refined sugar, what kind of sugary sweet things did you start investigating?
I just went straight for dates and red seedless grapes, and thought if I can work with those as a base, then I'll have lots of good sugary flavor, and the rest of it doesn't really matter. So
what I loved about that on screen was they had you talking about the berries, and then they had you talking about the grapes, and you've started talking about, I've got all these juicy red berries, and they just showed this bowl of grapes. And I'm looking at doing, does Robert know that they're not berries?
The berries were under the grapes.
And then they went, and the grapes, and then they panned up a bit, and you could see the berries, and you're like, okay. But it was just the way they did it. It was just like, poor Robert.
Surely they could have just camera that, like
Just reverse the footage.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I had I think 5 bowls of like berry and grape mash, just dripping through like sieves with muslin to try and get the juice out of it. And yeah, I was running hot on coffee as fast as I could, just trying to get everything done.
Tiramisu challenge was wonderful for you because you
oh yeah,
shot coffee. When you were over making the coffee, I was just watching that, going, "I'm so jealous."
There was a part of it. Robert's also into long blacks like Chris.
I just like coffee in general. Any coffee, not that fussed. Just as long as it's not bitter, I'm happy. Well, not bitter, as long as it doesn't taste burnt. I quite like a bit of coffee, but anyway.
I was about to say, not a bit of coffee. That's sort of the genesis of coffee.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. It explains so much about me. So
how many cherries did you have to pick? Because I saw you with the pipper, and I thought you'd had learnt from last week to get 2 going at the same time, just pick an either.
No, I was a cherry pitting machine. I had roasted cherries all through, like layers of roasted cherries in it, and they're bloody lovely. Like that was something I picked up from the pavlova, which was a complete misstep. Like what I did to that pavlova, no one should ever do to pavlova. That was appalling. But
crime against summer and Russian dancers everywhere.
You got it's calling for you to be extradited.
No, Barnaby's not calling for anything right now.
He's trying to what's it called?
Deflect
from his current situation.
Sure, I've done all this, but look what Robert did to that pavlova.
Yeah, the flavors all work together, but yeah, that's not what you should do to a pavlova. So anyway, but yeah, roasted cherries, good thing.
That's not what you should do with a pavlova.
No. But you live and learn.
Well, my question leading out of that is, what sort of things did the Bakeoff shed teach you beyond when making an absolute mountain of crepes, maybe 2 pans?
I usually bake pretty late at night, and I'll get home from work Thursday. If I've got a cake that I'm making for my nieces and nephews, like on the Saturday, I'll get home from work on Thursday, cook the cakes, and then Friday night is all decorating, and that usually takes about 8 to 12 hours in total to put a really nice cake together. And that's like all the little bits and pieces. And with Bakeoff, you've got 4 hours or you've got 2 hours, and that's it. So it kind of crunched my time management way down, which is pretty good. But also it just forced me to try and think of different flavor combinations and try things I've never tried before.
So now your kids, or your nieces and nephews, are getting things like green pepper and uzu.
But it also taught me just to go stick with what you know, because usually there's a reason that you make things the same way all the time. So that was why I went so off the beaten path with the trifle, because I get bored, not trifle, with the pavlova, because I get bored with pavlova. It does not excite me in the least bit. So I went, right, let's do something that I'd never be able to do anywhere else. And I should have stuck with the bog standard like passion fruit and what I do all the time. So that's what it taught me. Trust your instincts, trust what you know, trust like the flavors that you love, and you'll normally make something a hell of a lot better. So
which was the thing that came out of that, because the judging, when they turned around and Ray Raisa had all the passion fruit, and they're like, that's what we want flavor wise. And your internal monologue at that point is going, shit.
Yep. Yeah.
So what have you done with this pavlova? What I've done is I've got the meringue. Yep. What else have you done? I've poured a tin of pineapple over it. And what else? Passion fruit. Anything else?
Crumbled a flake across the top.
I've crumbled a flake.
That was my mum's grace. With the pavlova, there'd be like the one flake in the kitchen that she bought and that's when you knew pavlova was coming.
Just crumble a flake over it. Put some passion fruit on it.
Yep.
No. Now
passion fruit.
Or throw some passion fruit on it. Now,
because nothing says early 90s cooking like a crumbled up flake. Anyway.
And they're so versatile.
They are.
Right? They go on top of every dessert.
Indeed. Or they like making fake bark, like when you're like making an autumn scene. I'm sure. somewhere.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that. But yeah, no, that would make sense. But yeah, I was about to say, speaking of throwing things at other things, you have started for me one of the greatest sentences in the history of the world out of Bakeoff. I panicked and threw bacon at it. Are you happy with that being your mantra?
Yep.
Because I would.
That was probably one of the funniest things ever. I talk about steering into the skid. So I thought I had done so much worse than I actually had. And I was just completely gobsmacked that they had anything positive to say about it at all. And sometimes you get so in your own head. And so, like, let's face it, it was not a pretty showstopper. It just wasn't.
It wasn't.
But yeah. But, you know, you got to have these missteps. And that's probably the other thing that Bakeoff really gave me is don't for a second stop and think, no, I can't do this, because then you kind of get in your own way a bit. So, and that's what happened with the bread. I'm like, no, I'm terrible at bread. Actually, I really like making bread now because of Bakeoff. So
that was what Matt Moran said to you. Can you please stop this I can't do bread thing?
Yeah.
Because you
and
can't.
He's right.
and the thing was, that was your first misstep you had 5 bakes in a row where they were like, this is brilliant. You did 5 in a row, and it was the 6th one. So like, oh, everyone's going to have a misstep. Yeah, after 5 perfect ones.
We still put bacon on it. It's not that
bad. You put bacon on it, put you up into the middle.
So have you...
You know how panicked I was approaching that, though? Because I'm like, I've absolutely sailed through like top 3 or right at the top there and done really, really well, bake after bake after bake. And I'm going, I've got this frigging bread thing coming up. I have no idea. Like going into that, I had no plan, and I was
at the shop
myself.
He's like,
yeah, I couldn't get my head around the concept. And then the night before, of course, we're all trying everyone else's food, and we all hang out together. And I saw Claudia's, and I went, "Well, I'm going home." So, you know, because we all, instead of sleeping, we all practice bake because we were an incredibly studious bunch. Like, they reckon we're probably the most studious out of all of them. So,
I would have failed epically. See, like I said, I should just be that first baker that's there just to take one for the team. Have an extra week in the shed.
Yeah, the sacrificial baker, cannon fodder.
Speaking of sacrificial baker, like, I reckon you could start your own little cult around the throw bacon at it kind of philosophy. Everyone has to wear like a bandana while they're cooking.
Yeah.
This little thing, and you can have a sacrificial baker.
I think that's what we might actually need that now for this week for the social media. I think in honor of Robert, everyone needs to post a photo to social media wearing a bandana and throwing bacon at something. I think we need to get this going.
Hashtag Bacon Bay.
Yeah.
Hashtag Bacon Bay. I like it. I'm with it. I'm with the movement. Okay, so that's it. That's the challenge for this week, to get that trending. I think I've got zero hope, but we're going to give it a go.
Hey, you know, we're only up against Mardi Gras tonight.
Look, all I need is for one person at Mardi Gras to see that and go, great idea.
Like, oh my God, we can totally do this.
And we can
we can tag Cher in
it. We can get Cher to do it. It's an Australian tradition, Cher. You put a bandana on your head and you throw bacon at something.
I mean, we'll lose the Jews and the Muslims, but...
But, you know, look.
They can use bacon.
Bacon, yes, indeed they can. They can use bacon, and that's good because I don't want to be anywhere near bacon. So, I feel no love or no caring for bacon. It's not my kind of thing.
No,
not really.
But back at the shed.
Back at the shed, indeed. So, in terms of bakes, outside of that, the idea of you not being able to do bread, was there anything that you just looked at and went, what the hell?
Just pretty much the trifle. So, yeah, and that worked out. I don't. Yeah, the trifle just came together.
I thought about something. I thought about something actually with that trifle. What someone should have done was they should have just gone over to Chris's bench, and because he'd made so much,
he just knocked the top off.
Either knock the top off it and have like 2, or tag team it and claim he did it together.
Yeah, I still can't believe he got that much food, just that volume of food done. And on the screen, it looks massive. In real life, it was intimidating. Like, it was a tower of food.
You don't.
Like, there's something that happens with perspective on the telly when you're looking at it, and you go, "Oh yeah, that's quite a big trifle." In real life, you're like, "Holy crap, that is massive."
And what I love is on social media, someone suggested that they needed one of those core drills that they use in the center of Antarctic ice.
Well,
just to
sort of like
maybe get to the bottom of it.
the old cartoons where they have like the little, thing with like the drill bit on the end, and
The wacky races.
like wacky races,
Tunneling through the side of it.
Yes.
And with Muttley going. That could have been fun. Actually, that would have been a fun way to present that too. So the trifle was a bit like that. What about some of those technicals, especially when there were a couple of them where clearly everyone just looked at each other and went, "Huh?"
Yeah, but I loved that. That was my favourite thing.
Yeah, we sort of talked about the Fraser cake, for example, was the one that you mentioned specifically last week.
Well, I'd never seen one before, and I know now that it's a pretty standard thing in French patisseries, but I don't hang out in French patisseries. So.
No?
No.
Really need to change that. Having a lazy cigarette.
Lazy cigarette with a beret on.
Yeah. Have a Gauloise and a nice glass of wine. Yeah.
Actually, that just sounds like a nice way to spend a weekend now. I'm miles away.
Come back.
Miles away. I'm coming back to you.
It's like in like, what's it called? Mr. Squiggle, where you used to float away and Miss Jane had to
bring them back. Yeah, it's very much like that.
Time for moonwalk, spacewalk time.
Nice. So, was there anyone whose like bakes you would consistently just look at and go, "How the hell have they done that?"
Dave, Claudia, Raisa, especially like those three just really stand out to me in terms of you'd turn around and go, "Oh my god." Just like consistently, oh my god. And like Barb's trifle, I turned around and looked at that and went, how do you even with the V shape and
that was incredible.
How do you even? Just it was amazing. So, the crepe cake with Claudia, I'd mentioned that last time. I've got this tree stump which is just not decorated. I completely ran out of time. I turned around and look at Claudia's and she's got a whole forest. She's got a wedding cake forest tower and I've got like
You were pressured and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get this done. And meanwhile, when you then watch it back and there's Claudia going, I don't know if I'm going to have time to temper the chocolate to make the forest of trees that goes around this. And you're just trying to get the stack of them on the plate. And you and Marcus are like sort of both fighting to put your stacks together. And there's Claudia managing to finish long enough to temper chocolate to make trees.
Well, she'd obviously done the right slack preparation,
You know what she had? What? 2 pans going.
God. Really get into Robert.
But it was, I find, out of those, I mean, Claudia's thing is she seems to do these bakes that end up absolutely spectacular. But because she's not flashy when she does it, it's consistently like, oh yeah, that'll be solid. And she finishes and you look at it and you go, holy shit.
It's a little bit special.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Raisa's got this sort of way that she just does these sort of magical presentation things.
So much colour.
Yeah, lots of colour, lots of vibrancy. And then you get Dave, who will have a week where he'll look like he might be in a bit of trouble. And then there'll be a showstopper and he'll just produce something that's out of this world amazing.
Delicate.
That bread rose, which you guys adored, I thought was good, but you really loved.
Yes, it was beautiful.
It was incredibly beautiful.
I just heard like Angela Lansbury just start singing in the background as a teapot.
But not on show because they can't afford the rights.
No, it was just...
I'm just in awe of Dave's ability to go, I have done enough to this. I will now step away because it is perfect. Whereas if that was me, I'd keep adding shit to it until it's just overloaded and looks like a Christmas float that's falling apart.
That's an underrated Bakeoff skill too. And
it really is. Stop adding crap. It's really hard.
Unless it's bacon.
But yeah, exactly. Best example
bacon makes everything better.
Was a couple of seasons ago in British. And Flora. And Flora in British Bakeoff a couple of years ago.
Make a chocolate cake.
Yeah, she's going to make a chocolate cake. So you go, I'm going to start with some macarons. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some twirls. And then I'm going to make this. And then I'm going to put a chocolate cake together. And then what I'm going to do is, and she'd forget like the core ingredient. And then halfway through go, oh, it's a chocolate cake. Oh,
put that in.
Well, my macarons are just cooling. So while they're cooling and the twirl's going, and I've got my croquembouche in the corner. So while I've done all that, now I'll make a chocolate cake. 5 minutes. What do you mean? What do you mean? And I'm not overblowing it. There were 3 weeks where she had to make a cake and she made macarons and twirls first. Then and that was eventually what sent her home because she tried it one too many times and couldn't pull it out of the fire. And they actually said to her a couple of times, if you just focused on your core element, you'd be really good. But you just keep on getting distracted and doing other things, or going, it's not quite enough, and doing something else to it. So I admire the way that Dave has this step back. Okay, I don't need to touch this anymore.
Yeah,
it's an incredible skill, and it's really hard to learn. So fortunately, when I'm at home, I've got my wife to do that. Tash will go, all right, leave it alone now.
Grabs you,
added enough stuff. Yeah, she just kind of shuffles me away from the cake. So,
yeah, Chanel, look at your outfit and remove
pieces of it.
But the other thing about Dave's one is that while a lot of the time they don't necessarily look spectacular in all of those cases, the one thing that seems to come through is when Dave gets his flavors right, they're incredible. And especially when they talk, like the other day when they talked about the layers on his crepe cake with the watermelon and the berry and the,
how do you even make a watermelon flavored crepe? That's just incredible. Stuff like that.
And then
blows my mind. Anyway.
And the idea of actually putting like slices of watermelon
in it.
And making that work. That's I wouldn't have thought of it.
No.
So but
yeah. I mean, all of them, everyone in the top 5, they're all just absolute geniuses in their own way. Every single one of them does something or is able to do things which just leave you completely surprised.
The very top.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Any one of them could be in the top 3 in terms of what their performance and stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks.
But it's also been a series where everyone's had their moment.
Yes.
Like everyone's had a moment, like where there's been something for them, and they've done something that's been
had their Delta Goodrem Born to Shine moment.
Yeah, they've all managed to produce something that you can sort of go, okay, that was good.
Yeah,
that was good. That was good. And I said, I've said this when we talked to her, and I've said this in a couple of podcasts. I like with Jess's first bake with that teacup, the way that she nearly managed to save that bake in itself was just this incredible feat of baking that
Absolutely.
I don't think anyone else would have been able to pull that off.
No,
I would have been in tears rocking in the corner. And she just powers through like a Trojan, just makes it happen.
I would have been like half naked running through the background just stuck to me going, I can't do that.
I would have been throwing the Devondale out. You want to be congratulated. Lobbing Devondale out of the shed. But Devondale Angel.
Oh, that would be great.
It's probably what Maggie does in her dragon hoard of butter. Devondale Angel.
You and the dragon hoard of butter.
It's got to be.
I might have my own private dragon hoard of Devondale going on in my freezer, in my fridge. Just, hey, look, when it goes up cheap, you grab 20 of them and you sit on it. Because,
Oh, look, now when I'm out the shops, I do my little part to support the sponsor and buy some, Devondale.
Well, you need to. You see, you need to.
Usually get some Devondale.
Yeah, you do. But you do actually need to, because, like this week, for example, the first challenge, you weren't allowed to use any of their products.
No. So they would have actually...
Okay, I'm just going to say it. This was a genius, feat of marketing, because we missed it. We really, really missed it. Not everyone did, but I know I did.
But it was genius marketing.
But butter.
Yeah, but it was genius marketing, because then at the end, when they were judging it, they did that 5-minute soliloquy on how good's butter.
Yeah, but it really is.
I know.
I want to be all cynical about it and all cool and blah blah blah, and but holy crap, it's good. Anyway.
No, butter's essential.
It's like Kristie made a steak last week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got because he of course browned it after it, seared it after. Like, oh my gosh, you've got this amazing crunch on the outside. How'd you get that? He's like, butter.
Butter.
Yeah.
Burnt butter.
Burnt butter.
Burnt butter and sage. Burnt butter and sage. Put her in the pan and beautiful crisp on it. And then all butter. You ought to be congratulated. Yes, I know that's not the Devondale. And someone messaged me the other day. I went, that's Meadow Lee, not Devondale. That's the joke.
Yeah. It's that's how we try and be cool about it,
Yeah, because...
and just to reiterate, we're not fucking sponsored.
No, we're not sponsored. Because I've had someone ask about that too, about the sponsorship, and I'm like, well, seriously?
There is no way a family-style company like Devondale would even put their money anywhere near, their name and reputation anywhere near.
Kristie opened the series with the word felching. We're not getting sponsored.
Yeah, you know, my mum listens to this, and I have had to explain some of these terms to her. That is a very awkward discussion.
This is how it started, right? Because I think it was last season. I don't know how this anecdote came up, but my older sister, my mum, and my younger sister and I were doing like one of those cool family photo shoots because my friend's a photographer, and we're trying to get everyone to smile more because we're all laughing and stuff anyway. And I said the word felching, and my younger sister giggled, and my older sister, who I thought would know this term, looked at me and went, "What's that?" And so, as my friend's snapping, I'm explaining what the term means, and she's got her reaction to it on camera.
But this is not a family-friendly sponsored show. Again, go back and listen to Ode to a Sweary Canary, and if you've got children, don't listen to Ode to a Sweary Canary
With the kids around.
because the first 30 seconds of that episode is one word. It begins with F.
Families and stuff. So you're with Tash, and what I loved is when they introduced you, they had that beautiful shot of you two dancing. So do you guys do dance lessons together, or?
Yeah, we do. Well, not so much at the moment, but we used to when we had more time. And when we were first just friends, we'd go out. We actually did a photography course together, and then we did dance lessons together. And then after that, we started dating. So,
yeah. That's just so sweet. Oh, yeah. We met. No.
Kristie's like, yeah, no.
What? So,
yeah.
But I mean, but dancing. We said this with Marcus, but dancing seems to have ended up being a really big part of this year.
Which is funny because I'm probably the most unco human on the planet. Like, you give me an infinite plane, and I'll devote the next 30 years of my life to falling over the one pebble that happens to be there. So that is just how it is. But somehow I can do ballroom. I'm too tall and gangly and awkward to bust out moves like Marcus can, but I give it a go. I have fun.
But you can do ballroom. New steps.
True story.
Imagine you now putting on the gold and black jacket, Mercurio style, sliding into the Bakeoff shed.
That could be fun.
Nah.
That could be fun.
Here's the thing. I'm not even that great with ballroom, but I enjoy it a lot because if anybody is looking at the man when you're doing ballroom, he is doing too much. Like, there is something going very wrong. The whole point of it is
realistically, ballroom is a woman dancing with a stick.
Exactly. And I'm happy to be that stick.
And I'm happy to be the stick.
I think if they did do Bakeoff ballroom, like Claire Hooper would make a really good Tina Sparkle.
Oh, she'd be brilliant.
Like the fringe and the.
But that also that episode where everybody started dancing. Not the end of Marcus one, but the one where everyone did little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And you did your ballroom exhibition in the middle of the shed, which was fun. That also gave me possibly the best GIF of this series, which is the one where they cut and it's Mel doing the little swish. That I love that GIF. I can if that pops up on my feed, I can have that GIF just there for hours. Just Mel with the swish, and Marcus dancing in the back.
Did Maggie and Matt ever get involved in the dancing, or were they just like?
Matt, not so much, but Maggie busts a move. Maggie used to do a bit of ballroom in her day, and yeah, she's quite good actually.
Oh, I was expecting to come out and do a bit of twerking on the. So on the bench.
So if we were ever hoping to get Maggie Beer on this podcast, the fact that Kristie just suggested that Maggie should be twerking may have ruined it.
You never know.
Yeah.
You know, she's been doing a lot of things in her life. You don't know what she's got talent.
Hip hop Maggie B.
Yeah.
I remember one morning before going in, we were just playing around, and I'm like, "Come on, Maggie, give us a cha-cha. Like, I know you used to dance when you were younger. Let's have a crack at it." And then I'm like spinning Maggie, and I'm, hang on a second. I don't know what kind of shoes she's wearing. I could break Australia's Maggie Beer. Let's just calm this down a bit. This is not okay.
Something newsflash on Channel 9.
Do you realise you become a public enemy number one for ruining Australia's sweetheart?
We interrupt the program too.
We cut to Stately Beer Manor for an update.
And in other news, an idiot redhead baker has destroyed.
Has thrown into an oven.
Supply vans and go on a high-speed chase around the shed.
Throwing Devondale out of it so that people slip over on it.
You'll never catch me unbaked.
You'll never prove it.
Oh no.
Someone's hiding in the proving drawer going, I can prove it. Anyway.
Oh, God.
You really need some sugar.
No, imagine what. No, we saw what happened with sugar. The answer is Matt Moran last week. Yeah. So, did Matt get hold of the sugar that you weren't going to bake? Because Matt looked very up for it. Very bright and bubbly.
Matt actually is a lot more bright and bubbly than you see him on the screen. He's up for anything, same as Maggie. They are really effervescent, energetic, bubbly people. Like, they're where they are because they work so hard and they interact so well with people. And they can only film so much. They can only show so much. So
I suppose it's very hard to not be when you're around a shed full of people who are outgoing and just bubbly. It's one of the, we always say it, and I always say we always say it, but it's true. It's one of the hallmarks of that show is just how bubbly and bright and happy and cheerful everybody in that shed is. How does it feel to be in that environment every day?
It's really quite a pull in both directions, because on the one hand, you're physically and mentally exhausted by the time you get to about episode 5. Like, your body starts to just give up on you, especially if you're tall, because ducking down to everything you need is below the bench.
I wouldn't know.
A long way down.
You need a grip there. That's your seeing eye, Ginger.
Yeah. Oh, God, that would have been worth its weight in gold. It would have been brilliant. Anyway. What I wouldn't have given for a hand up. Anyway. Yeah. But the flip side of that is you get to go and just play and create whatever stupid thing comes into your mind. And you get to, like, at home, there's no way you'd ever go, I'm going to make a 3-tier cake, or I'm going to do this just for fun, because then you've got a massive heap of food left over, or you can't necessarily afford the ingredients to test. Whereas Bakeoff, you get to try that. So you get to really flex your creativity and go for it. And you get to have real decent feedback from Matt and Maggie. You don't always see all of it, but they're really thorough. Like, they give you so much feedback and encouragement, and they tell you, next time you try something like this, just do this. You'll find, like, it makes so much difference. Or if you're baking this, then although our joke is that Maggie just wants to add lemon juice and verjuice to everything, but yeah, like, that's a joke though, because in reality, like, the feedback that she gives us is worth its weight in gold. Like, people would give their left arm to spend an hour with Matt or Maggie and just pick their brains about food, and we get to do that for weeks. It's like mind-blowing.
That would be absolutely amazing. The wealth of knowledge and just the generosity of them sharing their experience. And then
you've also got all the other bakers as well mixed in there. So you get everyone's backgrounds and everyone's experiences.
And it's like being a kid and going to, like a camp or something, and it's just, you get to play again, and it's the weirdest kind of mental health break, because you put everything that you're doing in life and, like, work to one side for, like, however many weeks the show is filmed for, or however many weeks you survive on the show, and you just focus on food, and it's amazing. So,
and then you've got two of the most awesomely fun camp counsellors.
Yes, you do.
Who get around the tent and try to distract you and say really rude things.
Could you imagine camp counsellors?
That'd be awesome.
I know.
Oh. How distracting is it when you're really trying to focus and Mel decides that she's going to come over?
Okay, so Melon, it's very distracting, but that's their job. And it's funny because, sometimes they really don't want to come over. they're like, no, I can see you're stressed. I really don't want to go. Hi, how you going? Like, oh, so, but that's part of the show. So anytime you're like, your bench is on fire or you are or something like that, you can guarantee one of them will suddenly come in and help. So help, inverted commas. So, but the other things are just like the little asides, and they play with a lot as we're baking. So at one point, I'm really trying to focus on something, and they're doing the time calls, and they're like, "Bakers, 45 minutes to go. Hey Rob, does the carpet match the crepes?" I was gone. I was completely gone. Just gone for love or money. I just about wet myself.
We said the other night as well on the episode with Leah.
Yeah.
As you would have heard, then we think that Mel and Claire this series have just been more on fire than they have ever been in any series this year, with their asides and their jokes and their puns and their bits to camera.
I tell you what, I would pay a lot of money to see a behind the scenes of Bakeoff, because there's the things that I know about that I saw that I thought were funny, but then that same sort of experience is happening with all the other bakers and with the hosts as well. And just some of the things that must slip past, or that they just don't have time to show, would just be so side-splittingly funny, or some of the things that are too naughty to make it in. Just
and yet
we have so much fun.
And yet the naughtiest thing so far that's appeared on the show wasn't said by Mel or Claire. It was said by Australia's Treasure Maggie Beer.
Unwittingly, but still.
And just, I have to go back to that moment, because the Shed's reaction and Matt Moran. I've never seen Moran lose it like that. And then try to bring it back. Oh, look, they're all popped up and
good morning.
And I genuinely don't think she had a clue what she just said. I genuinely don't. You can almost see like Mel and Claire just up to the side going, I couldn't have produced that. That's gold. That's just absolute gold. And their Matt and Maggie lines when they walk out of the shed this year have been really good.
They have been. I can't remember any to quote at the moment because I'm still stuck giggling about Maggie and apples.
That really did.
Yeah.
That really did amuse the hell out of you, didn't it?
It did. It was like, like when Max did the frogs.
What are they, Max?
That was funny.
And then there was the clams as well, with when the clams were up. And what are they? They're clams.
Alex's clams.
Yes, Alex.
Yes. Okay. That was another one. I'm watching the first episode with the clams, and I've got my mum, my dad, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, a couple of friends over, and they're like, "What's the thing with the clams?" And I'm just about wetting myself laughing. Nobody else gets it. I'm like, how can you have made it this far in life? I'm like, it's a euphemism for lady parts. And then they're like, you just watch the knowledge kind of slowly dawn on them. And they're like, it doesn't look like that. What do you want? Oh my. It was so funny.
The cake isn't supposed to necessarily be anatomically correct.
Yeah.
And now the grandparents are going to a seafood restaurant. Who should we order the cake?
Remember when Robin told us it's so funny. So, back to
Bakeoff, bringing families together.
Indeed.
In awkwardness.
Families together.
Anyway.
Explanations.
Oh, no. I'll give you awkward one.
Of course you will.
So I used to work at an independent, or not independent, there are a small chain of cinemas in Australia called Palace. But I used to work at Norton Street cinemas. And so we get free tickets and stuff. And my dad and I, Dad had come and see like a film. So I went in with him one day and I didn't know what this new film was about. It was French, of course. And I sat through a nice 2-hour film of pretty explicit sex with my dad sitting next to me, about a woman having an affair. And boy, we really got the gist that she was having an affair.
She was really into this affair, apparently.
So that was a little awkward. Not quite what I was anticipating.
You know what wasn't awkward?
What?
We've avoided it all episodes. We need to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go back to somebody's amazingly decorated children's cake.
Yes.
So, Robert, that chocolate was a little bit special. You've said it a few times and made it quite plain that one of your favourite parts of baking is the decorating. that was sensational. Talk us through how you learn to do that and how you have the patience to do that and not throw it at the wall. Because I would have just thrown the whole thing at the wall.
Deconstructed dolly.
Yeah. Basically that all came around because about a year ago, about 3 years ago now, we ended up living with my in-laws while we were saving for a house just to boost up the house, like deposit savings and stuff like that. And we had a few other things that we had to save money for as well. And yeah, so I'm in a house with my in-laws sharing a very small kitchen, a lovely kitchen and all, but you know, it's not my kitchen, not my stuff. So I couldn't bake or cook the way that I usually do or the kind of size that I usually do. So I started making figurines out of fondant, and fondant's a pain in the neck to really make figurines out of. You've got to wait for it to dry. So I started doing a bit of research on how other people make these really incredible looking cakes that I've always wanted to have a crack at, and worked out how to make my own modeling chocolate. And modeling chocolate's a lot better to work with because you can keep it all contained nice and little, and you can work on the same piece over a couple of days. And like I've got a nice pirate lady, and her face kind of went a bit funny after summer, and you can just slice it off and put a new one on, and it all blends back in seamlessly, and it's just brilliant stuff to work with. So it was a blessing in disguise because I worked out how to work pretty small and pretty neatly on fairly intricate stuff, and that's just what I did to keep myself occupied. So when it came to Bakeoff, I'm like, I know what I can do. I did one of them for...
I can do this.
Yeah.
Well, it won over a lot of people. I mean, my mother has never really watched Bakeoff, and this series she's watching mainly because of the podcast.
Hi, Glenda.
And
let's go see a movie sometime.
Yeah,
not a French
one. She's mainly listened. She listens occasionally, but she watches the show.
Yeah.
She does ask me if there's anything one she shouldn't listen to, and I go most of them. But
just
after that first episode in particular.
Yeah.
Listen at your own risk. You
really want to learn things. And she really, after the first episode, she really likes Robert, and she hasn't watched this week's yet. It's recorded. She's watching because they were out, so she doesn't know yet.
Oh.
And I was so I go over there. And she said, "What are we doing?" I went, "I'm going home. We're recording with miscellaneous person who was eliminated." Yeah. She's like, "Oh, okay." So I'm looking forward to watching it all, and I'm looking to go, "I'm not looking forward to it." But yeah, Mum, I'm waiting for the message of what happened to Robert. What happened to Robert? So
she might be a one-woman protest at Foxtel. Bring back Robert.
one woman protest. So was there, of the stuff that you did within the shed, anything that you've now sort of made a few times that you had never made before, or you now make a really different way because of the show?
There's a couple of things. So I worked out how to make like creme pat a lot faster than I normally would. So like, well, while you're tempering eggs into milk, there's kind of no point if you bring the eggs and the milk up to temperature all at once.
That just makes sense.
Stir it.
Stop making
sense. It all comes together the same, and you end up stirring for an extra minute, but that's literally the only difference, and you end up with a better custard anyway. So,
oh wow!
So I picked up a couple of really neat little kind of shortcut stuff. Making when I found out that we had to make sausage rolls, and I'm like, well, I don't know anything about pastry, so I worked out how to make the classic puff in in 2 hours, and
which
I didn't realize that's not supposed to be possible. So
I'm looking forward to trying, because everybody that I've spoken to mentions that pastry and goes, you really need to try that pastry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, because it's not really normal. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do it, but check out my recipe on the website. I've got all the instructions, and I pack it in ice because, yes, I am that obsessive, but it works.
Yeah. See, I've been pondering. Yeah. I buy my pastry. I pure straight up, I buy it because, I don't have the patience.
Because you've got a life and you need to do other things with your fun.
No, I will spend forever making like dishes.
Fillings.
I will spend forever making that part of it, but the pastry bit, I just sort of go, I'll buy that. But I've heard so much about this pastry that it's just a case of I need to make this pastry.
Yes, you do. And it's not purely from a selfish point that I want to eat it.
So what you want me to do is make my duck sausage rolls, but using that pastry.
Yes. I'm not going to deny it. Yes, that's what you can go ahead and do.
Okay.
And a round of Dave's sausage rolls. Sorry, Robert. His honey soy sausage rolls.
Oh, they were amazing. Like seriously, that episode was probably that and the waffles. In terms of you want to be on set those days.
Let's talk waffles. Because waffles, you seemed like a very, very happy camper that day.
Yeah, it was good. It was so good.
A day with waffles on set.
It's like Donkey from Shrek. I'm making waffles.
Full disclosure, I'd never eaten a waffle until slightly before filming. Anyway.
You'd never lived.
I know. I don't know. It's just so much starch, and I'd rather just have ice cream, But no, I didn't. I now realise the error of my ways. But anyway,
when we first got together and I moved in, and Kristie suggested, we need a waffle maker. So I went down the shops, and I didn't come back with a single waffle maker. I came back with the top of the line 4 waffle, every setting under the sun waffle maker. I still think it's one of the best calls I've ever made in terms of appliances.
It still gets used. Particularly like
you were correct.
Waffles too. So like we go for family dinner and he'll take the waffle off.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
My favourite thing to make in them.
Is your potato waffles.
Is potato waffles. Not the sweet ones. I prefer making potato.
Didn't you make those for your students as well?
No, I made real waffles for them. I made potato waffles for me.
That was the thing that I loved the most about that episode. Like all of the sweet ones were breathtaking works of art. They were incredible, but just the savory waffles were mind blowing. So I love savory food. I cook a lot of sweet, but I love savory food. So
which as we said, we discussed the other day, and I'm very savory. I'm very much a savory person as well.
I'm just pro waffle.
You're pro waffle, we know.
I am. Nice. You start me off with some savory, end me with some sweet, and I'm all good to go.
Pro waffle.
Yeah. People's choice.
You need to move on to the pro waffle.
As long as it's waffle.
As long as it's waffle. And waffle or waffle?
Waffle. I don't know.
Waffle or waffle?
Waffle. Because I waffle.
Yeah. Like sausage roll day, we just about had a riot trying to get at Dave's sausage rolls. And
like
waffle day, we just about had a riot trying to get to Chris's chicken before everyone else.
Yes, that chicken.
Oh my!
I may have on Twitter the other day. I may have sent another message on Twitter saying to Chris, "So when does the care package of chicken arrive?" And there were a couple of others where, that's right, everyone's mutual friend on social media, Mr. Black.
Yes.
Baked some goods today and put out
muffins.
Who wants muffins? And I went, 1, where's the care package? And 2, and far more importantly, I hope that's a test bake for someone's audition. Because let Brandon bake. # let Brandon bake.
Yes.
He needs to go on that show. I mean, look, even if it's not this year, I think the job of every baker on this series, and let's face it, they've been working on it.
He's in Queensland. We can like all the Queensland bakers can just go mentor.
We can just sick them on him.
Yeah.
Forget mentoring. We just sick them on him.
It's like he wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning to a doorbell ringing. He opens the door and there's Liv.
There's Liv and there's Fee. Barb just going, "Oi,
we're here to bake."
I got to say that the talent coming out of Queensland in the last 2 years is just insane.
I don't know. The talent coming out of Western Australia, there's been a few of you. There's been a few of you,
Oh, speaking of Western Australia, on social media, I got chatting to Nathan and I think it's James. Oh God, no, he's going to hate me. Forgot his name. Yeah, Nathan and James, Western Australia. They're it's the curse of the male from WA, episode 7, gone. Anyway.
I don't know. I mean, you can talk to a certain female from Western Australia about getting to the second last week.
Yeah.
You can talk to Paul Liesel about what happens when you get to the second last round.
I think you need to be rooting for someone from South Australia, Western Australia. Sorry.
Get it right, please.
I don't know. It's all west of here.
It's all
Even
west. Everything's west of here.
Mm.
But no, you've had some. There's been some pretty good. Nathan, you've got Liesel, you've got James, yourself. So it's producing some pretty good baking stock.
Mm.
Yeah.
In fact,
it's nice. There's anywhere you look, you're going to find really, really skilled people. Like there's a lot of just with the stuff people can do on YouTube, and there's a lot of different quiet little baking groups that.
Yeah.
I say quiet little baking groups. One of them I belong to has, I think, 27,000 members. And that's a private sealed off cake decorators group that just exists on the internet. And they're not trying to sell you anything or anything like that. It's just, hey, how do you do this? And like 100 people say, like this. And you go, okay, I think they might be onto something. I'll do it that way. But that's one of the freaky things about food people. They've got these weird little communities, and it doesn't matter where you're from or what you're doing. They all kind of come together, and yeah, it's pretty nifty.
And again, I think Bakeoff's a really good representation of that in terms of it's a really good community. I think we've seen that socially. We've seen that with you guys in the shed. Again, the amount of help this year has been out of this world. I mean, even in that episode, that last episode where you went, there was so much of everyone going, right, what can I do? How can I help? What can I help you out with?
Like who was it? Barb helped Claudia, then Claudia came over to help you.
Yeah. Then Claudia come running over and they went, "Oh, you sure?" Yeah. Barb helped me, so I'm now helping you because I'm good.
Yeah.
It's that really helpful, supportive. It's good representation, I think, of that sort of food community that you're talking about.
See, what I would have imagined is if this was something, RKM or some shitty show like that. See how I flipped it over so you can't recognize it.
Well,
they would have got
show which shall not be named. Yeah.
They would have got you to reshoot your failure, but make it epic, and then you have to storm out swearing at Matt, saying that you hate everyone and you're.
Could this be the end of the baking?
But that's not what real life is. Like, real food people are not like that. I really don't understand that that's become the focus of a particular show. But anyway. Yeah. We'll leave that alone and move it aside, because
we'll leave
Bakeoff really is the nicest show on TV, and it's completely across the board. Everybody involved in that is bloody lovely. Like, everyone.
It's the nicest show, and the other thing I think that and I will say this, and we do MasterChef too, and we have a lot of respect for them. But I think the highest quality stuff is produced consistently on Bakeoff. I genuinely do.
Look, both shows have Maggie B, which is a positive. You can't
This is true.
That is true. I mean, look, Maggie only lends herself to the greatest.
Imagine, right, they replace Maggie B as one of the judges on the show that shan't be named, and suddenly it becomes like a lovely...
A friendly show.
There's a bit of, good-humoured rivalry, but none of the other stuff. Like, it would just... She's on a peace mission.
It wouldn't work, because the voiceover goes... Who's going home? And she goes, no, we're here to have nice dinner.
And virgins.
Right? Let's be supportive.
I might even bring some of my butter.
Yeah, I just don't get it, because, all of us, none of us developed really anything for the show in a vacuum. We all spoke to each other. We all said, hey, what do you reckon about this? And we get invested in what the other people are doing. We're like, no, you can't fail. You must succeed. We need this to be good. If someone else does good, it's the best feeling ever.
But the thing that's reflected in your in the week you went home is that, and it's not abject failure. No one's screwing up massively, and it's horrible. And why are they even in the show? Everyone is doing a really good job, and it's a case of somebody's got to go home.
Yeah,
and there's no drama around that, and nobody, they don't go, you're going home, and they stand up off the stool and go, oh, that's crap, I'm out of here, this sucks. Everyone just goes, yeah, that's fair enough. You guys are amazing.
And I think one of my favourite moments was that little hug between you and Raisa. It was just getting Star Baker and.
Do you know that? Okay. The hardest thing about being on the show by a long way is before you go into Bake, it might have just been an our group thing, but I've got a strong suspicion that the group before us, the year before us, they were pretty much the same. But we all bonded really, really hard and really, really fast. So before every bake, it was high fives, hugs. After every bake, massive hugs, high fives, and this is the whole way through. So signature, technical, and then like the showstopper.
Yeah.
So you just get used to, and I'm not an especially hug like pro person. Like, why are you in my space?
Well, you've got to go down a long way to hug most people.
Well, yeah, that's true. But like on the show, it's like you just hug everyone, and you're like, okay, we'll get through this together. And you get home, and you go up, and you're like, oh God, I want hugs. So it's so weird. Like, it's hard to get out of the habit.
Who are you?
Can't you get one of those like billboards, free hugs, and go stand in the middle of a mall somewhere?
Oh, I tell you what, that of all the things from the show, that's what you end up having withdrawals from. You turn into Humphrey Bear or Fat Cat. You're just like, I just need hugs. It's so weird.
What we've learned about Robert, he's a hugger now. So
it's like the opposite macarons. They go hug first. Macaron.
Yes, you want a macaron? Hug me. So just before we finish up, I think we have to ask Robert the question we've asked a few people so far. So, baking ashes. Yes. Now, I hope you put some thought into this, young man. Again, we need a 5-person team to take on a British team. Now, you can pick from any series. They're the only rules. You can pick from any series, but you must pick Australian bakers for your team, obviously. 5 bakers. Who would you pick?
Let's see. Oh, God, this is almost impossible.
While you're having a think, just to let everyone know, grand final week, we will give our teams over. And we've got both. We've planned out our British and Australian teams. And there's strategy involved. We've been very strategic with how we've planned it. So, how are we going?
Oh, this is probably the toughest question ever, and I have given it a lot of thought, and I can't pick between them. So, I definitely want like we could go like people who would like keep the team running and buoyant and laughing the whole time would be like Chris, Barb, Monica. You'd have an absolute riot, and the food would be incredible.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to have Raisa and Dave for flavors. Marcus is a bit of a dark horse. Like, what people didn't realize, he was doing incredible things with flavors, and it wasn't made a huge story of. But check out Marcus's Instagram. His food is breathtaking,
and also check out his bags. They smell like Malibu.
Hilarious thing was on trivia this week. There was a question about what brand of alcohol is this, and it was the Malibu thing.
And if you have no idea what we're talking about, by the way, go listen to the Marcus episode in the archives. It's such a good talk.
So I gave all my teams a hint. I said, if you've been listening to my podcast, you would know that this particular brand of alcohol coated a baker's luggage
through Melbourne Airport.
So yeah, I reckon with that group, you'd have the best time ever and produce food which is just off the hook. You couldn't go wrong with Fee and Liv. They would be just incredible. But everybody that makes it onto the show, like, can cook, can do incredible things. You might not always see it because just sometimes that's the roll of the dice.
It just doesn't hit your week. It doesn't hit your particular skill set. You might be absolutely brilliant at pastry, and unfortunately, you might have to get through a bread week, which is not necessarily your forte, or
cake week when you're actually
or patisserie, and that's not what you do.
Yeah, Frenchie going out on biscuits was like soul destroying because I'm like, no, you were supposed to do croissants. Why?
You were supposed to make it to croissants. We had faith in you.
We didn't know what a Frasier cake was. You could have told us.
You could have translated. So
would have been useful.
Anyway,
at least he got to make boobs. Like, that's.
It's funny because he remade those back at the apartments, and they are froggies. It's just for some reason on the show.
I was waiting for you to go. He remade them at the apartment, and he just dropped all pretense and made them boobs.
Threw the green icing out the window. It came the pink and white.
Forget that. Off we go. So basically, what you're saying is, I want everybody on my team.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, well, you can have a rotational bench for yours.
That would be great.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Imagine a tag team like Bakeoff.
Well, that's a second challenge that I want to talk about, is this idea of a version of Bake Off where you have two bakers in teams, and it should be a team challenge.
Bake-Off Showdown.
I think Bake-Off Showdown and Team Challenge would be great fun. One from, I think, the last two series, and what they should do is they pair bakers together.
And it's set at like Movie World's Wild West show. So it's like, because it's
this kitchen ain't big enough for both of us.
There's no kitchen.
That's why it's not big enough for both of us, because there's nothing here. So it's been an absolute pleasure to get to have this chat today, Robert. Thank you again, by the way, the other day for doing the show with everybody's favourite MasterChef winner. Sorry. My favourite MasterChef winner, Elena.
Mine too.
And yours, yes.
And I picked her. I picked her from week 2.
Indeed you did. Thank you.
I picked her from breakfast, like, seriously.
No, we know you shared a bench. Yeah.
No.
I couldn't play this, people. And thank you as well for your support of the podcast, because you were really an early adapter. And
we much appreciate it.
Even if I did pester you from, way out and say to you, by the way, you're doing this show, right? You don't get a say. Just to pull back the curtain a little bit, the second they could do their announcement as to being on the show, Robert had messages going, you're on this show. You don't get it.
It was, I work a lot in like call center type environment, and it's really, really loud, and I'm doing kind of technical things and accounting type things, and I need podcasts to live and not go insane. So you guys are like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. You guys do a pretty good job, so I'm really,
which is awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like, I just have to say that I'm really pleased that you came on and that you're like mates with Elena too. Like, it just a nice little bit of synergy that we had there, and both of you to replace me last time.
It did. It took two of you to replace you. So, and I get I can sort of, I'm not going to say what just yet, but just to give everyone listening a bit of a teaser as well. This is probably not the last time that I'm talking with Robert on a podcast. Just putting it out there. So with that, thank you.
So mysterious.
I know. Thank you, Robert. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yes, thanks for not taking out a restraining order.
It's great. It's all good. We promise to leave you alone now. Anyway, I've been Chris.
And I've again been happy to have Robert on the show.
And that's been Robert. And we'll catch you all later.
Ciao.
Thanks, guys. Bye.